July 29, 1944, Berlin. Adolf Hitler personally signs an order to award the Iron Cross to one of his most valuable spies, a man who, according to the Nazis, saved thousands of German lives. 5 months later, London. King George VI awards the Order of the British Empire to exactly the same man. How is it possible for a single person to be considered a war hero by two mortal enemies at the exact same time? If you looked at Juan Pujol García, you wouldn't see a super soldier. You wouldn't see a James Bond. Juan was a short, balding man who ran a failed chicken farm in Spain. He didn't know how to shoot, he didn't know how to fly, and he barely spoke English. But inside the mind of this ordinary man lived a weapon more dangerous than any atomic bomb, an uncontrollable imagination. To understand what he did, we need to go back to 1936, the Spanish Civil War. Juan saw his country torn apart. He hated the fascists for their cruelty. He hated the communists for their fanaticism. He saw firsthand how lies and propaganda could destroy entire nations. When World War II broke out and Hitler began to march across Europe, Juan decided he wouldn't just be a spectator. He needed to fight, but to fight for the good of humanity. So in 1941, he walked up to the British Embassy in Madrid. He offered his services as a spy. The answer? Go home. He tried again. We don't need you. He tried a third time. Ignored. To British intelligence, Juan was just a delusional civilian with no training. They didn't want his help. Most men would have given up, would have gone back to their chickens. But rejection sparked something in Juan. He thought, if the British won't let me in, I'll get in through the Nazis. The plan was pure madness. He would become a fanatical German spy. He would gain Hitler's trust, and then he would use that trust to destroy them from the inside. There was just one small problem. He didn't know any Nazis. He had no contacts. He didn't even have a passport to leave Spain. All he had was the ability to lie. And that is how the greatest chess game in history began. Juan knew that to be heard, he had to scream in the enemy's language. He approached German intelligence in Madrid, not as a chicken farmer, but pretending to be a Spanish government official, a Nazi fanatic, desperate to do something more. He was so convincing, so theatrical in his hatred for the Allies, that the Germans took the bait. They gave him a code name, Arabelle. They gave him invisible ink, encryption codes, and a mission. Go to England and send us intel. But Juan didn't go to England. He didn't even have a visa. He went to Lisbon, Portugal. While the Germans thought their super spy was dodging bombs and MI5 agents on the streets of London, Juan was sitting in his rented apartment drinking wine. How would he spy on a country he had never set foot in? His secret weapon cost a few pennies, a Blue Guide tourist book of England, an outdated railway map, and a book of exchange rates. Using only these books and old newspapers, Juan began to build a world. He looked at train schedules and calculated, if a train leaves Liverpool at 2 p.m., it arrives in London at 6 p.m. Then he wrote to the Nazis reporting troop movements at those exact times. He copied drink prices from newspapers to complain about British inflation. They were incredibly detailed reports. They were works of art, and they were 100% fake. But lies have short legs, and Juan was almost caught by a stupid detail. In one report, he described his alleged agents in Glasgow, Scotland, drinking a litre of red wine in the summer heat. The problem: Scots don't drink litres of wine, they drink beer, and Glasgow doesn't get hot. The Germans got suspicious. Who drinks wine in Glasgow? Juan had to think fast. He replied with indignation, saying his agents were the elite, men of culture, not common drunks. The arrogance worked. Meanwhile, across the channel, British intelligence was intercepting the Nazi messages. They were in a panic. German codes spoke of a massive spy network operating inside England. MI5 launched manhunts. They searched ports, interrogated suspects. They found no one, because there was no one to find. The British realized that someone was fooling Hitler better than they were. Finally, the Allies discovered the source of the messages: an eccentric Spaniard in Lisbon. They had two options: arrest him or hire him. Fortunately, they chose the latter. Juan Pujol García was secretly smuggled into London. The amateur had become a professional, and now, with the resources of the British Empire, his lie was about to get much, much bigger. London, 1942. Juan now has a British codename, Garbo. Because he was the best actor in the world, but he didn't work alone. MI5 assigned Thomas Harris to be his partner. Together, they formed the most creative duo of the war. Harris provided the real military structure. Garbo provided the poetic madness. They decided that a single spy wasn't enough to fool Hitler. They needed an army. So they began to summon ghosts. Garbo started inventing sub-agents, not 1 or 2, but 27. There was a Venezuelan in Glasgow, a loose-lipped American sergeant, a Gibraltarian waiter, an alcoholic Welsh sailor. None of them existed. They were all made of air and ink. But to the Nazis, they were real. They had names, salaries, girlfriends, and financial problems. Garbo wrote letters in the handwriting of each one. He created 27 different personalities inside his own head. The genius was in the flaws. Perfect fake spies would be suspicious, so Garbo made them human. He reported to Berlin that one of his agents was sick and couldn't send messages. Another was arrested for drinking too much. This frustrated the Nazis, but increased his credibility. They thought, of course this is real. Look how messy it is. The ghost network grew so large that Germany stopped trying to infiltrate new spies into England. Why bother? They already had Garbo's network, but the masterpiece of Act 3 was the death of Agent Number 2. Garbo realized that the Nazis might try to contact this specific agent. It was a risk. So Garbo killed him. He sent a tragic report stating that the agent had died of a sudden illness in Liverpool. The German High Command was devastated. They sent condolences via radio, and the most incredible part, Garbo convinced the Nazis to pay a lifetime pension to the widow of the dead agent. For the rest of the war, Hitler sent real money to support the wife of a ghost. The money, of course, went into MI5's pocket. In 1944, the network was solid. Hitler trusted Garbo blindly. Nazi radio called his reports pure gold. They didn't know that every word sent so far was just a warm-up. All of this, the 27 agents, the years of lies, the stolen money, was built for a single purpose: to prepare the ground for the most important day of the 20th century. D-Day was coming, and the lives of 150,000 Allied soldiers depended on Juan's next lie. January 1944. The Allies prepare Operation Fortitude. The goal was simple: convince Hitler that the invasion would happen at Pas-de-Calais and not in Normandy. For Garbo's lies to be believed, the Allies built a Hollywood set in southern England. Inflatable tanks, wooden airplanes, empty barracks. If a Nazi plane flew over, it would see a colossal army preparing to attack Pas-de-Calais. But on the ground, it was just air and canvas. June 6, 1944. D-Day begins. While real soldiers died on the beaches of Normandy, Hitler was hesitant. Should he send his reinforcements? It was at this moment that Garbo sent his most audacious message. He telegraphed Berlin saying, "Do not move your troops. The attack in Normandy is a diversion. The real attack, the giant army, will come later at Pas-de-Calais." It was the final lie, the gamble of life or death. In Berlin, the High Command read the message from their trusted spy. They believed it. Adolf Hitler ordered 2 armored divisions and the entire reserve infantry to remain in Pas-de-Calais, waiting for an attack that would never come. While the Allies took France, the best German tanks sat idle miles away, protecting an empty beach. Garbo had paralyzed the Nazi army using only Morse code. The supreme irony came weeks later. The Nazis were so convinced of Garbo's loyalty that even losing France, they blamed their own generals, never the spy. To compensate for Garbo's hard work, Hitler awarded him the Iron Cross. Garbo had to ask MI5 for permission to accept the medal. They laughed and said, "Accept it. It is the trophy of the greatest con in history." The war ended. Europe was free. But for Juan Pujol García, the danger was not over. He was a marked man. surviving Nazis could discover the truth. The Soviets might want his secrets. The world's greatest spy needed to do what he did best: disappear. In 1949, MI5 spread the news. Juan Pujol García had died of malaria in Angola. The world mourned, the files were closed, but of course it was a lie. Juan moved to Venezuela. He opened a bookstore, got married, had children, and lived a quiet, anonymous life for 36 years. No one in South America knew that this nice little old man had defeated Hitler. Only in 1984 did a writer manage to track him down. Juan resurrected to the world. He traveled to London and was received as a hero by the Duke of Edinburgh. He visited the beaches of Normandy and wept for the soldiers he could not save. Looking at the graves, he said, "They were the heroes. I was just an actor." Juan Pujol García died, for real this time, in 1988. He proved that in a world of bombs and bullets, the most powerful weapon is still the human mind. This was the story of the man who tricked the devil and lived to tell the tale. I am the White Mannequin. Subscribe to see the truth take shape.